Captain Alex Rivers stared out the viewport of his cargo ship as it slowly moved through the black space between stars. The ship was old and simple, like most human vessels. The Galactic Coalition made sure of that. For 300 years, humans had been kept on a tight leash. No advanced weapons, no fast ships, no real power in the galaxy. They were told it was for peace, but Alex knew better. It was to keep humans weak. His ship carried basic supplies to New Geneva, a mining colony on the edge of human space. The work was boring, but necessary. Humans did the jobs that other species found beneath them. They hauled cargo, worked in mines, and cleaned stations. The galaxy saw them as useful servants, nothing more. The communications panel buzzed. Captain Rivers, this is New Geneva Control. You are cleared to dock at Bay 7. Copy that. Control. Beginning final approach. Alex guided his ship toward the small station orbiting a brown planet. The colony below looked peaceful from space, but he knew life was hard for the miners. The Coalition took most of what they dug up, leaving barely enough for the workers to survive. As his ship settled into the docking bay, Alex noticed something wrong. Too many Coalition security ships were parked nearby. The sleek black vessels of the Saurian Empire stood out like predators among the simple human craft. Saurians were tall, scaled creatures who served as the Coalition's enforcers. They had sharp teeth and cold eyes, and they enjoyed making humans afraid. Alex finished unloading his cargo and was walking back to his ship when he heard shouting. A crowd had gathered near the main plaza. Human miners were holding signs and demanding better working conditions. Their voices echoed off the metal walls of the station. "We want fair pay," one miner called out. "Our children are hungry while the Coalition gets rich." Alex pushed through the crowd to get a better look. The miners looked tired and angry. They worked 16-hour days in dangerous conditions for barely enough credits to buy food. The Coalition. Companies that owned the mines kept raising quotas while cutting pay. Suddenly, heavy footsteps rang across the plaza. Commander Thex of the Saurian Empire marched forward with a squad of armed soldiers. Thex was bigger than most Saurians, with dark green scales and scars across his face. His yellow eyes looked at the human protesters with disgust. "This gathering is illegal," Thex announced, his voice cutting through the crowd like a blade. "Disperse. Immediately, or face consequences." An older miner stepped forward. His name was Tom, and Alex had met him on previous cargo runs. Tom was a good man who worked hard to support his family. "We have the right to peaceful protest," Tom said, holding up a datapad. "The Coalition Charter guarantees it." Vex laughed. A harsh sound that made Alex's skin crawl. "The Charter applies to citizens. You are not citizens. You are workers." "There is a difference. We're people," Tom replied firmly. "We deserve to be treated with respect." Without warning, Thex drew. His weapon had fired. The energy blast hit Tom in the chest, and he fell to the ground. The crowd screamed and began to run, but Thex's soldiers surrounded them. "Anyone else want to discuss rights?" Thex asked coldly. Alex felt sick as he watched Tom's body lying on the metal floor. The old miner wasn't moving. 3 other protesters, who had been standing near Tom, were also shot down. Their crime was asking for enough money to feed their families. "This is murder," Alex said, stepping forward despite the danger. Dex turned his reptilian head toward Alex. "You have something to say, cargo hauler?" I said, "This is murder." "These people did nothing wrong. They disrupted order." They questioned. "Authority, that is wrong enough." Dex holstered his weapon. "You would be wise to return to your ship and forget what you saw here." Alex looked around at the other humans. They were all staring at the ground, too afraid to speak. He understood their fear, but someone had to stand up for what was right. "I'm filing a complaint with the Coalition Council," Alex said. "This was an illegal use of force against unarmed civilians." Stepped closer, towering over Alex. "File whatever you want. Humans have no legal standing to challenge Coalition member species. Your complaint will be ignored just like you." Alex felt his hands shake with anger, but he knew Thex was right. Humans were second-class beings in the galaxy. They had no real rights, no protection under law. The Coalition kept them around because they were useful. But they could be disposed of at any time. As Alex walked back to his ship, he passed the families of the dead miners. Women and children were crying over bodies that would never come home. The other miners were already being forced back to work. There would be no justice, no investigation, nothing. Back on his ship, Alex recorded everything he had seen. He sent coded messages to contacts on other human worlds, warning them about the increasing violence. But deep down, he knew his warnings would not be enough. The Coalition was getting bolder. They no longer bothered to hide their contempt for humanity. What Alex did not know was that far below the surface of Earth, other people were watching too. Dr. Maria Santos sat in a hidden command center buried 3 miles underground. Banks of computers surrounded her, monitoring communications across the galaxy. She had been tracking the growing hostilities toward human colonies for months. The Terra Defense Initiative had been working in secret for 3 centuries, while the galaxy saw humans as weak and primitive. Earth's best scientists and engineers had been preparing for the day when pretense would no longer be enough. Hidden shipyards built vessels that surpassed anything in the Coalition fleet. Secret laboratories developed weapons that could tear through alien armor like paper. Dr. Santos received Alex's report about the massacre at New Geneva. She read it carefully, then added it to a growing file of similar incidents. The Coalition was testing boundaries, seeing how far they could push before humans fought back. How many more? She whispered to herself, looking at photos of the dead miners. Around her, technicians monitored the galaxy's communications. They recorded every Coalition military transmission, every tactical plan, every weakness in alien defenses. 4,300 years, humanity had played the role of servants and laborers. But they had been watching, learning, preparing. The galaxy thought it knew humanity. They saw a peaceful species that avoided conflict and accepted whatever scraps were thrown. Their way, they were wrong. Humans had simply been waiting for the right moment to show their true strength. That moment was coming soon. 6 months after the massacre at New Geneva, Captain Alex Rivers was hauling supplies to Haven, one of humanity's most peaceful colonies. Haven was different from the mining outposts and industrial stations. It was a farming world where 2 million humans had built something beautiful. Rolling green fields stretched to the horizon, dotted with small towns and happy families. Alex enjoyed his runs to Haven because the people there still smiled. Children played in the streets while their parents worked the fertile soil. The colony produced enough food to feed several star systems, and the people took pride in their work. It was proof that humans could build something good when left alone. As his ship approached Haven's orbital station, Alex noticed something that made his blood run cold. A massive fleet was moving toward the planet. Hundreds of ships bearing the insect-like design of the Hive Collective were forming attack formations above the peaceful world. Haven Control, this is Captain Rivers, Alex called into his radio. What's going on up there? The response was panicked. Captain, we're under attack. The Hive says we violated their territorial boundaries. They're demanding we evacuate immediately, or face destruction. Alex knew that was impossible. Haven had been a human colony for over a century. The boundaries had been clearly marked and approved by the Coalition Council. The Hive Collective was making up excuses to steal the planet's resources. How long do we have? Alex asked. It gave us 1 hour. Captain, there's no way to evacuate. 2 million people in time. Most of our transport ships are on other runs. Alex looked down at the beautiful planet below. In the major cities, he could see people starting to panic as the news spread. Families were trying to pack their belongings and flee to the countryside. There was nowhere safe to run. The Hive Collective ships began their assault exactly 1 hour later. Energy beams lanced down from orbit, striking the cities with devastating force. Buildings that had stood for generations were reduced to ash in seconds. The orbital station shook as stray shots hit its outer hull. Alex watched in horror as the capital city of Haven disappeared in a ball of flame. The communication channels filled with desperate calls from people trapped in the destruction. Parents screamed for their children. Rescue workers begged for help that would never come. All civilian ships, this is Haven Emergency Command. A voice crackled over the radio. Evacuate immediately. The planet is lost. Alex wanted to help, but his cargo ship had no weapons and weak shields. If he stayed, he would just become another casualty. With a heavy heart, he joined the stream of ships fleeing the doomed world. Behind them, the beautiful farms of Haven burned. The Hive collective ships moved methodically across the planet's surface, destroying everything humans had built. What had taken a century to create was wiped out in a single day. Alex's ship was crowded with refugees he had picked up from the orbital station. Families huddled together in his cargo hold, many crying for loved ones they had left behind. An old farmer named Pete sat in the corner, staring at nothing. My granddaughter was visiting the capital, Pete whispered. She was only 7 years old. Alex felt rage building in his chest. This was not war, it was murder. The Hive Collective had attacked civilians who posed no threat to anyone. Had burned farms and schools and hospitals for no reason except greed, as they jumped to hyperspace. Alex sent an emergency message toward Earth. It was coded using an old system that cargo haulers used to communicate with their home offices. But this message was different. Hidden in the shipping data was video footage of the attack and proof that the territorial violation was a lie. The message traveled through the galaxy's communication network, bouncing from relay to relay until it reached a small receiving station in Earth's asteroid belt. From there, it was passed down through several levels of security until it reached Dr. Maria Santos in her underground command. CENTER Dr. Santos watched the footage of Haven's destruction 3 times. Each viewing made her angrier. The beautiful planet where children had played in fields was now a smoking ruin. The Hive Collective was already moving their own colonists to the surface, eager to claim the fertile soil that humans had spent generations preparing. Around her, technicians were monitoring other communication channels. Similar attacks were being planned across human space. The Coalition had decided that humanity had served its purpose. They wanted the planets that humans had terraformed and colonized, but they did not want the humans who lived there. Dr. Santos picked up a secure phone and made a call that would change everything. Mr. President, this is Dr. Santos. We need to activate Protocol 7. President David Wright was in a late-night meeting when the call came through. He had been expecting this moment for years, but it still felt surreal when it finally arrived. Protocol 7 was the most classified operation in human history. Only a handful of people knew it existed. Are you certain, Doctor? The President asked. Haven is gone, sir. 2 million people are dead or missing. Intelligence suggests similar attacks are planned for at least 6 other colonies. If we don't act now, humanity may not survive the next year. The President was quiet for a long moment. He thought about the peaceful world of Haven and the families who had lived there. He thought about his own children and grandchildren. Then, he made the decision that would reveal humanity's greatest secret. Protocol 7 is authorized. Wake them up. Across Earth and throughout the solar system, hidden facilities began to come online for the first time in decades. Deep beneath the ocean floors, massive doors opened to reveal shipyards the size of cities. On the dark side of the moon, weapon platforms emerged from camouflaged bunkers. In the asteroid belt, what looked like mining stations transformed into military command centers. The galaxy had watched humanity for 3 centuries and seen only a peaceful species that avoided conflict. They had never suspected that beneath Earth's quiet surface, the most advanced military force in galactic history was waiting. Dr. Santos stood in the main command center as status reports poured in from around the solar system. Fleet Admiral Lisa Park was already on her way to take command of the first battle group. The ships being prepared were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were fast, powerful, and equipped with weapons that would shock the Coalition.
No.
Long until the first fleet is ready? Dr. Santos asked. 72 hours, ma'am, a technician replied. Admiral Park wants to test all systems before deployment. Dr. Santos nodded. They had waited 300 years. They could wait 3 more days. But when humanity finally revealed itself, the galaxy would learn that they had badly underestimated the quiet species from the third planet of an unremarkable star. The storm was coming, and it would wash away everyone who had chosen to stand. Against humanity, the age of human weakness was over. The age of human strength was about to begin. 3 weeks after Haven's destruction, the galaxy received its first shock. Human warships appeared at the edge of the Kepler system, where the Saurian Empire maintained a major military base. The ships were like nothing anyone had seen before. They were sleek and dark, with smooth hulls that seemed to bend light around them. Coalition sensors had trouble getting clear readings on their size or capabilities. Fleet. Admiral Lisa Park stood on the bridge of the flagship Terra's Wrath, watching the Saurian base on her main screen. She was a career military officer who had spent 30 years preparing for this moment. Like all human fleet commanders, she had studied every battle in galactic history. She knew the strengths and weaknesses of every coalition species. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Saurian commander," her communications officer reported. "Put it through." The scaled face of General Crix appeared on the screen. His yellow eyes showed the typical Saurian arrogance that had made them so effective as coalition enforcers. "Human vessels, you are in violation of restricted space," Crix announced. "Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Admiral Park smiled coldly. "General Crix, this is Admiral Park of the Human Defense Fleet. We are here to deliver justice. For the massacre at Haven and the murder of innocent civilians at New Geneva." Crix laughed, showing his sharp teeth. "Justice. You cargo haulers think you can threaten the Saurian Empire? We have been warriors for 1,000 years while you have been servants. You're about to learn the difference between a warrior and a soldier," Park replied. "You have 5 minutes to surrender your base and submit to coalition justice. After that, we will take it by force." The transmission ended with Crix still laughing around the Saurian base. Defensive platforms came online and fighter squadrons launched to intercept the human fleet. The Saurians had 47 warships and hundreds of fighters. They outnumbered the human force by 3-1. Admiral Park turned to her tactical officer. "All ships, battle stations, weapons free." The human fleet moved forward in perfect formation. Their ships accelerated smoothly, without the jerky movements typical of most coalition vessels. As they closed distance with the Saurian defenses, strange energy fields began to glow around their hulls. The first Saurian missiles reached the human fleet and simply disappeared. The energy fields around the human ships absorbed the explosions like they were nothing more than flashlight beams. Return fire from the human vessels was devastating. Beams of concentrated dark energy tore through Saurian shields and armor like they were made of paper. General Crix watched from his command center as his fleet was systematically destroyed. Ship after ship exploded or went dark as human weapons found their targets. The Saurian fighters tried to get close enough for attack runs, but the human point defense systems tracked every target perfectly. "How is this possible?" Crix whispered. "Our intelligence said humans had no military technology." Zaid looked at the tactical display in disbelief. "Sir, we've lost 36 ships in 7 minutes. The humans haven't taken any damage." The Terra's Wrath, Admiral Park watched the battle with professional satisfaction. The human fleet was performing exactly as designed. 3 centuries of secret development had produced weapons and defenses that were generations ahead of anything. "In coalition space, target their command center," Park ordered, "end this." A single beam of dark energy reached out from the flagship and struck the Saurian base. The massive station, which had stood as a symbol of coalition power for over a century, split in half and exploded. General Crix and his entire command staff were vaporized in an instant. The battle lasted 17 minutes from first shot to final explosion. When it was over, the entire Saurian force was destroyed. The human fleet had suffered no casualties. And minimal damage to their shields, Admiral Park opened a channel to the galaxy's communication network. She knew that every government and military force would be monitoring the battle zone. "This is Admiral Park of the Human Defense Fleet," she announced. "For 300 years, humanity has lived in peace under coalition rule. We asked for nothing except the right to exist safely on our own worlds. That request has been denied. Our colonies have been attacked, our people murdered, our children burned alive on worlds we spent generations building. This ends now. The message was broadcast across the galaxy. Within hours, every species in Coalition space had seen footage of the battle. The reaction was immediate panic. If humans could destroy a major Saurian fleet so easily, what else were they capable of? Meanwhile, Captain Alex Rivers was on a very different mission, while Admiral Park's fleet drew attention with their dramatic victory. Alex was leading a small team of cargo ships on a rescue operation. Intelligence suggested that survivors from Haven and other attacked colonies were being held at labor camps throughout Coalition space. Alex's modified cargo ship looked exactly like the thousands of other human vessels that carried supplies across the galaxy, but hidden in its cargo holds were advanced sensors and communication equipment. His team had spent weeks mapping Coalition prison facilities and identifying where human survivors might be held. Their first target was a mining facility on the planet Dust, controlled by the Insectoid Hive Collective, according to Intercepted Communications. Several hundred Haven survivors had been shipped there as slave labor. The Hive Collective had a history of using prisoners for dangerous mining work that would kill most species. Alex's ship approached the planet, using legitimate shipping codes that Dr. Santos's intelligence network had provided. As far as the Hive, controllers knew he was delivering standard mining equipment and food supplies. A cargo vessel Lucky Strike. You were cleared for landing at Facility 7. The Hive controller buzzed through the radio. Copy that. Control. Beginning descent. As Alex's ship settled onto the landing pad, he could see the mining complex spread out below. Thousands of workers moved through the dusty corridors, most of them human. They looked tired and sick, barely fed enough to keep working. Alex and his team unloaded their fake cargo while secretly scanning the facility. Hidden cameras and listening devices mapped the layout and identified guard positions. Within 2 hours, they had enough information to plan a rescue. That night, when the facility was running on minimum staff, Alex's team struck. They used advanced weapons to disable the Hive guards without killing them. The goal was rescue, not revenge. The terrified human prisoners were loaded onto Alex's ships as quickly as possible. Among the rescued was an old farmer Alex recognized. From Haven, the man was thin and weak, but his eyes lit up when he saw Alex. Captain Rivers? Is that really you? It's me, Pete. We're getting you out of here. As the rescue ships lifted off from Dust, Alex sent a coded message back to Earth. The operation had been a complete success. 237 human survivors were safe and heading home. But Alex also included disturbing intelligence in his report. The labor camps were just the beginning. Coalition forces were planning something much worse. Intercepted communications suggested a coordinated attack on all remaining human colonies. The goal was complete extermination of the human species. Dr. Santos read Alex's report with growing alarm. The Coalition wasn't just taking human worlds. They were trying to eliminate humanity entirely. The peaceful species that had served them for 3 centuries was now seen as a threat that had to be destroyed. She looked at the tactical displays, showing human fleet movements across the galaxy. Admiral Park's victory had been impressive, but it was just the first move in a much larger game. The Coalition had thousands of ships and dozens of member species. Humanity was outnumbered by millions to 1, but numbers weren't everything. Coalition had grown complacent during their centuries of dominance. They fought the same way their ancestors had fought, using the same tactics and the same assumptions. Humanity had spent 300 years studying those tactics and developing counters for every strategy. More importantly, the Coalition had never faced an enemy that understood them so completely. Human intelligence networks had infiltrated every major government and military organization. They knew Coalition battle plans before the aliens who wrote them did. Dr. Santos opened a secure channel to Admiral Park. Admiral, how soon can you have additional fleets ready? I can deploy 3 more battle groups within the week, Park replied. What's the target? Everything. The Coalition has decided we need to be exterminated. It's time to show them why that was a mistake. the galaxy, had awakened a sleeping giant. For 3 centuries, humanity had pretended to be weak, while growing stronger than anyone imagined. Now the pretense was over. The storm that had begun with Admiral Buttnell Park's victory was about to become a hurricane that would reshape the balance of power among the stars. News of Admiral Park's victory at Kepler spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Within days, every coalition government was holding emergency meetings. The quiet humans who had served them for centuries had revealed military technology that seemed impossible. Ships that absorbed weapons fire like sponges, energy beams that cut through the strongest armor, perfect tactical coordination that destroyed entire fleets in minutes. High Counselor Vex of the Tentacle Dominion called an emergency session of the Coalition War Council. Representatives from dozens of species gathered on the capital world of Nexus Prime, their faces showing fear and anger in equal measure. The humans had made them all look like fools. How did we miss this? Demanded General Hive Queen Zek of the Insectoid Collective. Our intelligence networks monitor every human world. We control their technology, their communications, their trade. Where did these weapons come from? Vex's tentacles writhed with frustration. Our spies report massive industrial facilities emerging from underground on Earth and throughout their solar system. They have been building in secret for generations. Commander Vex of the Saurian Empire slammed his clawed fist on the table. It doesn't matter how they built them. What matters is stopping them before they threaten the natural order. Humans are servants, not warriors. This rebellion must be crushed. The room erupted in argument as different species blamed each other for the intelligence failure. Some wanted to negotiate with humanity. Others demanded immediate military action. But the 3 most powerful members of the coalition were united in their response. The decision is made, Vex announced when the room finally quieted.
We will
assemble the largest armada in galactic history. Every species will contribute ships and soldiers. The humans will face the combined might of 10,000 worlds. Within weeks, coalition fleets began gathering at the Nexus system. Ships arrived from every corner of the galaxy. Massive Saurian battleships with heavy armor and powerful guns. Swift, tentacled Dominion cruisers equipped with advanced shields. Hive collective carriers launching endless swarms of fighter craft. Dozens of smaller species contributed their own vessels, creating a fleet unlike anything ever assembled. The armada was truly impressive. Over 10,000 ships of all sizes, carrying millions of soldiers from hundreds of different worlds. They had enough firepower to crack planets and burn entire star systems. Coalition propaganda broadcasts declared that the human rebellion would be over within days. High Counselor Vex stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Unity, watching the massive fleet form up around him. He had commanded coalition forces for over a century, winning battles against pirates and rebels throughout the galaxy, but this was different. This was a war that would determine the future of galactic civilization. Send a message to Earth, Vex ordered. Give them one final chance to surrender. The transmission was broadcast across human space on all frequencies. Vex's voice was calm and reasonable as he delivered the ultimatum. People of Earth, you have demonstrated impressive military capabilities. But you are vastly outnumbered. Our fleet contains more ships than your entire species has ever built. Surrender now, dismantle your military forces, and return to your proper place in galactic society. Refuse, and we will be forced to end the human experiment permanently. The response came 12 hours later from Admiral Park herself. She appeared on every screen in Coalition space, her face calm and determined. High Counselor Vex, you had 300 years to leave us in peace. You chose oppression, slavery, and genocide. You murdered our families, burned our worlds, and treated us like animals. Now you will face the consequences. Come to our system if you dare. We'll be waiting. The transmission ended, leaving Vex staring at a blank screen. Around him, his officers looked nervous. The human admiral had shown no fear, even facing impossible odds. What did she know that they didn't? as the Coalition Armada prepared to jump toward Earth, human forces were busy throughout the galaxy. Small strike teams hit supply bases and communication relays far behind enemy lines. Coalition commanders found their orders delayed or garbled. Fuel convoys disappeared without trace. Repair facilities suffered mysterious accidents that left them unable to service the massive fleet gap. Captain Alex Rivers led one of these strike teams. His cargo ship and two others approached a major Coalition logistics base near the planet Arcturus. The base supplied fuel and ammunition to over 1,000 Coalition vessels. Destroying it would cripple enemy operations in an entire sector. Remember, we're not here to fight a battle, Alex told his team over the radio. Get in, plant the charges, get out, let the explosions do the talking. The three ships used legitimate cargo manifests to dock at the station. As far as the base computers knew, they were delivering routine supplies. Alex's team split up and moved through the facility, placing advanced explosives at critical points. The charges were smaller than a human hand, but contained enough destructive force to level city blocks. 30 minutes after docking, the human ships were safely away from the station. Alex activated the charges by remote signal. The explosion was visible from orbit as the massive facility disappeared in a ball of superheated gas. The Coalition had just lost enough fuel to run 100 battleships for a year. Similar strikes were happening across Coalition space. Dr. Santos activated sleeper agents who had been in place for decades. Human cargo haulers, maintenance workers, and service personnel suddenly revealed their true purpose. They sabotaged weapons factories, destroyed communication networks, and eliminated key military leaders. But the most devastating weapon in humanity's arsenal was information. For 3 centuries, human intelligence services had been recording every Coalition military communication. They knew enemy battle plans, tactical doctrines, strategic weaknesses better than the aliens themselves. Dr. Santos sat in her command center, surrounded by displays showing Coalition fleet movements. Her analysts had identified every ship in the enemy armada, along with the personal histories of their commanders. They knew which captains were aggressive and which were cautious. They knew which species worked well together and which had old grudges. Admiral Park, we're uploading the complete tactical analysis to your fleet computers, Dr. Santos reported. Every enemy ship, every weakness, every probable response to different attack patterns. Understood, Doctor. My captains are reviewing the data now. When the Coalition arrives, we'll know them better than they know themselves. The massive Coalition armada finally began its jump toward Earth. 10,000 ships carrying the hopes and fears of dozens of species. They were confident in their numbers and firepower. They believed that overwhelming force would crush human resistance quickly. What they didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for this exact scenario for generations. Hidden throughout the solar system were defensive positions that made Admiral Park's original fleet look small, up in platforms disguised as asteroids, battle stations hidden in the rings of Saturn, entire fleets waiting in the dark spaces between planets. The Coalition was bringing the largest armada in galactic history to fight the most prepared defense ever assembled. They thought they were coming to crush a rebellion. Instead, they were walking into the most sophisticated trap ever created. As the enemy fleet approached the edge of the solar system, Dr. Santos opened a final communication channel to President Wright. Mr. President, the Coalition armada will arrive in 18 hours. All defensive positions, report ready. Operation Thunderstorm is authorized for execution. God help us all, the President replied quietly. Begin the final phase. Was about to break, and when it was over, the galaxy would never be the same. The Coalition armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, expecting to find a desperate human defense around Earth. Instead, they found what appeared to be empty space. Long-range sensors detected only the normal traffic of cargo ships and civilian transports moving between the inner planets. High Counselor Vex studied the tactical displays on his flagship bridge with growing suspicion. Where were the human warships? Admiral Park's fleet had destroyed the Saurians. At Kepler, But that was only a few dozen vessels. Surely the humans had more ships defending their home system. "Launch reconnaissance drones," Vex ordered. "I want a complete scan of this system before we advance." The drones spread out across the solar system, their sensors probing for hidden threats. They found the expected human colonies on Mars and the Moon, along with mining operations in the asteroid belt. Everything looked normal, almost peaceful. Commander Vex leaned over the tactical display, his scaled face showing confusion. "Where are their defenses? Even primitive species protect their homeworlds. It's a trap," General Hive Queen Zek buzzed. "The humans are hiding something. They must be." Vex considered the options. His massive fleet could destroy any conventional defense, but the humans had already proven they were not conventional. Still, he had 10,000 ships and the support of the entire coalition. Even human technology had limits. "All ships, advance." "In formation," Vex commanded. "Maintain full alert status. If the humans want to hide, we'll force them into the open." The coalition armada moved deeper into the solar system, their weapons charged and shields raised. As they passed the orbit of Neptune, the first surprise revealed itself. What they had taken for small asteroids suddenly activated powerful engines and moved to intercept positions. Dozens of automated weapon platforms had been disguised as space debris. The platforms opened fire with concentrated beams of dark energy that tore through coalition shields like tissue paper. Several enemy ships exploded before they could even return fire. But these were just the opening moves in a much larger game. Incoming vessels from multiple vectors. A coalition sensor operator called out. Hundreds of ships emerging from stealth. Admiral Park's main battle fleet suddenly appeared from behind the dark side of several moons. Their advanced stealth systems dropping to reveal sleek warships that dwarfed anything in the coalition armada. More human vessels emerged from hiding places in the asteroid belt, their hulls dark against the star field until they powered up their engines. But the biggest shock came from Saturn itself. The planet's ring system suddenly came alive as massive. Battle stations revealed themselves. What the coalition had assumed were ice and rock formations were actually camouflaged military installations. Each station was larger than a city and armed with weapons that could crack moons. Vex watched his tactical display fill with red warning symbols as human forces appeared from every direction. His 10,000 ships were suddenly surrounded by defensive positions that had been decades in the making. "How many ships do they have?" Vex demanded. The answer came from Admiral Park herself, her voice broadcasting on all coalition frequencies. "Enough. You came here to destroy humanity. Instead, you've delivered the entire coalition fleet into our hands. Surrender now, and your crews will be treated according to galactic law. Continue fighting, and you'll share the fate of General Crix." Vex's response was immediate. "All ships, attack formation. Show these humans the price of challenging the coalition." The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. The coalition fleet had superior numbers, but the humans had every other advantage. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, their shields impenetrable. Most importantly, they knew exactly how their enemies would fight. Dr. Santos had provided detailed psychological profiles of every coalition commander. Admiral Park's captains knew that Saurian ships would charge straight forward, that tentacled Dominion vessels would try to flank, that Hive collective swarms would overwhelm single targets. The human fleet was ready for every tactic coalition. Ships found their weapons barely scratching human shields, while return fire cut through their hulls like hot knives through butter. The dark energy beams that had impressed observers at Kepler were even more devastating when deployed by entire fleets. Enemy vessels simply disintegrated when hit directly. Captain Alex Rivers was commanding one of the human cruisers, having been promoted after his successful rescue missions. His ship was part of a squadron tasked with eliminating Saurian heavy battleships. As his weapons locked onto Commander Vex's flagship, Alex remembered the miners who had died at New Geneva. "For Tom and all the others," Alex said quietly as he gave the firing order. The beam that struck Vex's ship was concentrated dark energy, focused to a single point. The massive Saurian battleship, which had terrorized human colonies for decades, split in half and exploded. Commander Vex, who had murdered innocent miners with casual cruelty, was vaporized, along with his entire crew. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human forces systematically destroyed their enemies. The Coalition's numerical advantage meant nothing when their ships could barely damage human vessels. In 3 hours, half the Coalition armada was debris floating in space. High Counselor Vex watched his grand fleet being torn apart and realized the terrible truth. Humanity had not just hidden their military capabilities. They had studied Coalition forces so thoroughly that this battle was never in doubt. The humans knew every weakness, every tactical mistake, every way their enemies would respond. Signal. General retreat, Vex ordered, his tentacles trembling with shock, but there was nowhere to retreat to. Human ships had surrounded the entire Coalition force. The few vessels that tried to flee were intercepted and destroyed before they could jump to hyperspace. The trap was perfect and complete. As Coalition resistance crumbled, surrender signals began appearing across the battlefield. Ship after ship lowered their shields and powered down their weapons. The crews that had come to exterminate humanity were now begging for mercy. Admiral Park accepted the surrenders but made the terms clear. All Coalition forces will withdraw immediately from human space. Reparations will be paid for every attacked colony. War criminals will be handed over for trial. Humanity will be recognized as a sovereign power with full rights under galactic law. The formal surrender took place on the flagship Terra's Wrath. High Counselor Vex, his tentacles drooping with defeat, signed documents that ended 3 centuries of human subjugation. As he did, he asked the question that haunted every Coalition leader. How did we miss this? How did you hide such power for so long? Admiral Park's answer was simple. You saw what you expected to see. Weak humans who served without complaint. You never looked deeper because you didn't want to. That was your mistake. The aftermath of the battle reshaped galactic politics overnight. The Coalition's member species began withdrawing from their alliance, unwilling to fight a war they could not win. Some minor species that had been oppressed by the Coalition now requested human protection. The balance of power among the stars had shifted completely. Dr. Santos addressed the reformed Galactic Council from her command center on Earth. Representatives from hundreds of worlds listened as she explained humanity's new position. For 300 years, we chose silence when we could have chosen war. We served when we could have conquered. We built in secret when we could have destroyed openly. You mistake our restraint for weakness, our patience for cowardice. You know the truth. Humanity will take our place among the great powers of the galaxy. Not as servants, but as equals. Captain Alex Rivers stood on the bridge of his new ship, watching as the first human colony ships departed for former Coalition worlds. Haven would be rebuilt, stronger than before. The miners of New Geneva would be remembered as heroes whose sacrifice awakened sleeping giants as Alex watched the ships disappear into hyperspace. He thought about the long journey that had brought them to this moment. Humanity had played the role of servants for 3 centuries, all while preparing for the day when the mask would come off. The galaxy had learned too late that the quiet species from the 3rd planet was never as helpless as they appeared. The age of human weakness was over. The age of human strength had begun. And among the stars, new dawn was rising for a species that had chosen silence until the moment came for storm. From the silence of centuries came the thunder of awakening. Earth had slept long enough. Now the galaxy would learn what humanity could accomplish when they stopped pretending to be weak and showed their true power to the universe.